All right, everybody, welcome back to the Nosebleeds. I am Chris Witt. This is Adam Schmidt. We're cousins talking sports. Adam, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing. I'm just gonna say outstanding, but I'm gonna try to come up with a different word every week.
Yeah?
Because you asked me that the last couple of weeks. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to come up with a different word every week
Okay.
to describe how I'm feeling.
All right, that sounds good. I'm good with that. Try to describe how you're feeling, different word every week. So then I am going to continue to ask you the exact same question every time we come on.
Well, how are you doing?
If I was any better, I'd be you.
Yeah, you should keep the same thing. I'll come up with a different word. You keep the same thing.
Sounds good.
All right.
I like it. All right. So today we are going to get into some Reds, little Reds baseball talk. We're from Cincinnati, so we're going to get into that, talk a little MLB. Then we're going to get into the NBA playoffs because I'm about to go on a rant. I'm right now just thinking about it. There's some things about these playoffs that just get on my last nerve. We just got done last night. The Cavs beat the Pacers to tie the series 2-2, and it was one of the most annoying ending of a game that I can remember in a long time.
Yeah, we had a long conversation on the phone that wish we were recording. So hopefully it'll be just as good.
It'll be as entertaining, maybe.
Oh,
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to go because I'm so annoyed by just the way that the NBA does things sometimes. Anyway, all right, so let's jump off and start off. First off, before we get going, I don't know how you're listening to this, but we are on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and CastBox, right? Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So listen, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate everybody listening. If you got anything you want to say, you can catch Adam at Adam Schmidt 44. And I'm at Sick With It.
On Twitter.
On the Twitter. All right, bro, so let's get into it, man. The Reds. So we were talking Reds baseball last week, and we got in a little discussion about Bryan Price, and should they keep Bryan Price or should they not keep Bryan Price? And when I posted this Thursday morning, I was all about keeping Bryan Price. It makes no sense to get rid of him. It's so stupid to get rid of Bryan Price. And what do? That morning, I posted this thing up, and they got rid of Bryan Price.
That was crazy timing because we started talking. We recorded it Wednesday night. We posted it. You said you posted it Thursday morning, and Thursday morning, I don't know, probably shortly before or shortly after the posting of this podcast, they announced that they.
So what do you think? They promote Jim Riggleman. Okay, so this is possibly the worst baseball team in the history of baseball. I believe 40 in the modern era. 40 wins is the least amount of wins that's ever. Is the Mets their inaugural year, the New York Mets. Now, this team is on pace right now to win, I think, like 21 and a half games or something. This is it's horrible. So what is Riggleman doing? Because Riggleman's been here. He's 0-4 or 0-3 now.
Well, he's 1-3 now because they just won a few minutes ago.
Oh, well, congratulations.
10-4.
They scored 10 runs. What happened to – well, every blind squirrel finds a nut.
Right. Yeah. So, but going into this game, they were 3-18, which is historically bad start. They scored less than 3 runs in 11 of their first 21 games. So 0, 1 or 2 runs. They're not scoring. Their pitching's still bad. They've had a few starts and a couple relievers that haven't looked awful, but they are still they do still have the third highest ERA, staff ERA, second most earned runs given up second most home runs, fourth most walks. Their pitching's bad, their hitting's bad, their base running's bad.
Everything's bad. They are a bad team.
Yeah.
And going back and looking at this, their pitching gets a kind of a bad rap, but they gave up. There's a few games in there. There's a 14-run game, a 13-run game, and 2 9-run games this month. Outside of those, they're really giving up about anywhere between 3 to 5 runs a game. That's not horrible. You got to score runs. You have got to be your Major League Baseball players.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, even the worst teams have to be able to score. Somebody's going to be the worst each year, and the Reds aren't actually the very last team, but they're close to it.
I can't. Offensively. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but anyway, there's not a whole lot to say because it's not. They're just a bad team, and that's the thing. We were talking about that the other day. Is I don't even really get that upset watching this team because I know what they are. I was expecting them to not be good. I wasn't expecting them to be this bad.
Never expected them to be this bad.
But just knowing where they are, just knowing they're still in that rebuilding phase, and everybody's mad about that, and I understand that. But yeah, and it's frustrating.
Even when you're rebuilding, though, you should be consistently getting better. This is 4 years into a rebuild, and this is the worst team that we've had.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out yet. It's I think they have, and that's why we didn't expect them to be this bad because they have some promising young players, especially arms.
Yeah.
And they're just gonna, and they have had some decent games, especially the pitchers, so far this season. But I expect them to get better, and they're not going to lose at this pace the rest of the year. I don't think they might still end up being the worst team in baseball at the end of the year, but I don't think they're going to lose at this pace. The 10-4 win tonight's a good start.
All right,
let's get it going.
So what's Riggleman's record now since he has come on to the stands, which was Thursday? Last Thursday was his first day,
and they were
on
off,
the job.
Thursday.
They were off. That was the 19th.
So they got swept.
So
by
he's
St. Louis.
0-1, 0-2, 0-3. So he's 1-3.
Right.
All right. So I guess statistically, he is better than Bryan Price was doing. But let me tell you that I don't understand how, if you're going to get rid of Bryan Price, well, what are you going after now? If you want something to be better, I understand it's historical worst ever start for the Reds. But if you're going to get rid of him, and then you put in a guy like what are you gaining from Riggleman? What's the good there? There is am I wrong? There's nothing. There's no difference.
Right. Yeah, you're not. And Jim Riggleman basically said as much. He said, we're gonna try to drill into these guys the details of the game, not just hitting or pitching, but the details of the game. And he said, but that's what we've been trying to. That's what Brian's been trying to do too.
Listen, this team has been practicing and playing now since the beginning of February, middle of February. All right. I just don't understand how you could be playing baseball for 3 months and think that this is the shakeup is not Bryan Price.
Right. Yeah. And it's, well, I think they got rid of Bryan Price like we were talking about last week. That's just, whether it's right or not, that's just the reaction in any sport, when a team starts this badly, and especially because he's been around for a while now, and they're not winning anymore with him. That's what happens. That's the reaction from the front office because they know there's the pressure to
they
make
do
something happen, right? So that's their answer. And Jim Riggleman is not the replacement. He's not gonna be the manager next year.
Sure.
But there are a few names that have.
So why not put Hatcher in there? Get a whole different type of personality. Mm-hmm. I feel like Riggleman is just a carbon copy of Bryan Price, or somewhat close. Mm-hmm. Why not bring in a little? What's his name? Hatch is always over at third base. He's always got a smile on his face. Bryan Price looked miserable every single day. Now, don't get me wrong. This team is miserable, but at least Hatcher still usually has a smile and gets along. Seems like he gets along, and the players seem to really like Bryan Price. But get a different feeling, a different vibe in the locker room.
Yeah, and I love Billy Hatcher. I would love to see him be the manager of this team. He's been around for a while, though. He's been, he's the first base coach for a long time, and then
Mm-hmm.
the last few years he's been the third base coach. He's spent a lot of time here too, so maybe he's too familiar a face. I don't know. But he
to who? To the guys on the bench? Because I don't know half these guys. Half these guys haven't been around for more than two years.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah. But but some of these guys were in the minors, and they were with the team
up and down,
or with the team in spring training and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think they all know Hatch pretty well. And he's an outgoing guy, and he's a fun personality and everything, and I think he's a smart baseball guy too. So he would make sense. But I don't know. Look, no matter who you put in there, they're likely not going to win that many more games, than Bryan Price was winning with this team, But of course, we kind of mentioned Barry Larkin as a possibility last week, and that's been kind of talked about for years now. I can see them doing that to kind of appease the fan base. But I don't know. I don't know what Lark's going to bring, because he's never managed, he's never coached, except for in the he's done some.
What? Don't say going to spring training. That doesn't count as coaching. You're at spring training. You're just doing drills. That's not when
Sure.
those guys come and help at spring training. That is maybe they're coaching the guys up, but that is not coaching in a major league. 162 games in a year. That is a grueling pace.
Yeah,
not
right.
a 6 week.
Right, and he did manage once in the World Baseball Classic, but again, that was a short, that's a couple month thing there,
and you also have the best players in your country.
Right, yeah, for the most part, yeah, but yeah, and actually, I think he went like 1-4 in that or something like that,
so not very good.
So anyway, but besides Larkin, the Reds hired earlier this season John Farrell, who was the Red Sox manager, won a World Series with the Red Sox as a scout. So he's in the organization right now.
So John Farrell, real quick, is basically Bryan Price to me. Now, he won with the Red Sox, and the Red Sox had a great team.
Right.
There's a lot of good players on that team. It's easy to win with those kind of players. But ex-pitching coach, absolutely no charisma, maybe not charisma is the right word, personality on his face, no facial expression. He's just a bland ex-pitching coach who became a manager, and that's exactly reminds me of Bryan Price.
Okay, so let me throw two more out.
Okay.
Joe Girardi.
Joe Girardi, that's another guy. I want a guy who's won without the incredible talent that like a Yankees or a Red Sox can bring.
Has anybody done that? Has anybody won with not great talent on their team?
Well, I mean, obviously, but okay. So what I'm saying is a guy like Joe Madden who can take a Tampa Bay team, who you've never heard of, who is nothing but young guys and can bring them through.
Right.
Or he can do the same thing with a whole lot of young guys in a Chicago Cubs uniforms that are all, I mean, yes, they paid some money to get some guys, but for the most part, they're Chicago Cubs. They came up through the organization. That's the kind of manager, somebody who can do something like that. So, am I asking for Joe Madden? That's a lot to ask for, obviously, but I don't think that's Joe Girardi. Joe Girardi, when he was in Chicago, wait a minute, was he in Chicago? He was no, he was.
Yankees.
I'm thinking of when he was
When he's
catching.
playing?
Yeah, I know that he was managing the Yankees, but right. I guess I'm getting old when I'm thinking of these old managers as players.
Yeah.
I don't know who's the other one, because I don't like Joe Girardi either.
Brad Ausmus.
Has Brad Ausmus done anything up there?
He managed the Tigers for a couple years, and they weren't
sucked.
Great. So but he was
Change of face.
Number one, I have a bias for catchers. Number one, because that's my favorite position.
Well, I think catchers are probably the best guys to be a manager. You're in every aspect of the game more than everybody else is.
Right. Yeah. And when they hired Brad Ausmus on in Detroit, they talked about how he's kind of one of those progressive guys where he'll look at advanced stats a lot and stuff like that, and that's in their front office was kind of like that too. Where I don't know how much he does that or whatever, if he would bring a different flavor. But really, I heard Bryan Price did that too.
Yeah.
But so maybe that doesn't.
Everybody uses these advanced metrics now. There's nobody that is gone. That old school front office is gone. Everybody has a division in their front office that's what they focus on.
Sure, yeah, and
maybe some more than others,
right,
but
yeah.
All right. So here's the deal. I think I don't know that at this point in time with this team that I could say yes. I think any manager is good.
Right.
Maybe Joe Girardi would be a decent guy. I don't know, but I don't like him because he managed the Yankees. I'm not a Yankees fan, so he was easy for me to hate, and he didn't seem like he liked. He just seemed like he was miserable as a Yankees manager, and they were good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure and you said the same thing about Bryan Price too, because I'm sure there's a lot of pressure. Bryan Price seemed like such a cool, likable, intelligent guy when he was the pitching coach for the Reds, and then And then he became the manager, and he had to talk to the media every single day. And I still think he is that guy, but I think the pressure was so much heavier on him as the manager, obviously, than the pitching coach, and I think that weighed on him a lot. I mean, you could tell.
Yeah, the guy aged like 15 years in
Right.
3 years. So
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I think whatever. When Bryan Price is gone, I think they could have waited. Either way, basically, he's still managing. There's no change to this staff besides one guy, and that wasn't the issue with this team.
Right.
And you're going to find out because they're not going to be any better. I mean, maybe they'll be better than 3-18, but they're going to be maybe like a 5-18 team. It's not good still. It's still horrible.
Right.
And this team goes where Joey Votto goes, and they don't have anybody on the team that can protect him. He's not going to see any pitches, and he's going to struggle. When he struggles, this team struggles because of those guys on this team look up to him. They were talking to Jesse Winker the other day. Jesse Winker, they said they were comparing him something part of his game to Joey Votto, and he stopped them and said, "Do not ever put me in the same sentence as Joey Votto." All right, well, guess what? You're a Major League Baseball player. Get that out of your head, because when Votto slumps, now all of a sudden everybody else around him thinks of him as this god, and he's slumping. What do you think that's going to do to them? Mm-hmm. Probably what's going on right now. We don't have anybody. Eugenio Suarez is the only one batting over 280 right now.
Yeah, and he hasn't played.
He played 8 games.
Right.
Joey Votto's hitting 243. Your boy, not mine. Billy Hamilton. Do you know what he's hitting right now? Just take a wild guess what he's hitting.
Well, last week,
forget 280.
Last week he was hitting 152 when we talked about it. What's he hitting this week?
He's actually doing better. He jumped his batting average up 20 points to a whopping 172.
Hey, he's on a roll. He's on a roll now. It's going to go up 20 points every week until he gets to 400.
He also leads the team in strikeouts, which is exactly what you want your contact hitter to do. I need a contact hitter who can just use his wheels. Let's strike out 23 times in 20 games.
So speaking of contact hitter and Joey Votto, so there was an article on MLB.com today, and it listed the most difficult guy to strike out on every team. So I'm sure you can guess the Reds.
Votto.
Right. So for every guy, it had a little paragraph. Some of it was only like, a sentence 2 sentences or 2 sentences. Some was like a whole paragraph. Votto's was the shortest.
Really?
It said Reds, Joey Votto, and it said the correct answer to any question about the Reds is always Joey Votto. That was their answer for why he's the hardest to strike out.
It's the truth.
It is the truth, yeah.
It's the truth. I mean, I was thinking about this team, and I was thinking, man, you know what? When Suarez comes back and Schebler gets back, maybe this team's going to start hitting again. Then I started actually thinking about the lineup. So you're talking about Jesse Winker's going to be leading off for you. Who? Scooter Gennett hitting second. Or Scooter Gennett's probably hitting cleanup on this team right now.
He is.
Scooter Gennett, he's a utility player that's playing every day for us. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Scooter Gennett.
Who was an all-star caliber player last year.
Yes, he was. But what I'm saying is this team is a bunch of nobodies. Maybe not to us in Cincinnati.
Right.
But this is a bunch of nobodies. There's no looking at this team, there's no wonder we are as bad as we are.
Yeah, well, it's a really young team. It's a very young team, so that's kind of why. I mean, yeah, I bet a lot of people outside of Cincinnati don't know much about anybody on the team except Votto.
Duval might be your next best guy.
Right.
I don't know. I can't stand. We spent way too much time talking about these Reds. I can't. It just irritates me and it hurts me. I love them so much. But I hate them at the same time. Speaking of, though, did you see the other day 21 pitch at bat to Brandon Belt?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
13 minutes.
Yeah. It was incredibly impressive, and this is the kind of thing that the casual baseball fan or the people that don't even care for baseball say that's why it's so boring. But for me, watching that, hearing okay, I didn't see it. I didn't see it when it happened, but I watched the video, and it was that's it. When I heard about it, it made me want to watch it because it's so interesting. Like a 21 pitch at bat, that kind of a battle between pitcher and batter, that is so fun to watch.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Just
I love
how
that.
the pitcher mixes up his pitches and which ones were fouled off and where he fouled them off.
And when you get past that 11 pitch mark, 12 pitch mark, it's close. You've got a lock on this guy. So you're either going to foul it off or you're going to do something. It's so much fun to watch those. I love the fact that you can go get a beer, come back, and the same guy's still up the bat.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really impressive. It was the most pitches in an at bat since 1988. It was.
Look at you, Mr. Stat Man over here. Jeez, oh Pete.
I looked into it.
Pull that one out of your butt, or just have that right there?
That's where it was. It was
nice.
right. It was way up in there.
How way up in there? So you pulled that all the way. Well, I hope you use gloves. Maybe some KY or something.
Anyway, but Jaime Barria and Barria. I was just gonna say I'm guessing on the pronunciation of his name because he was called up.
Barria.
He was called up yesterday to pitch that game. He was just called up for that game. So he threw 16 or 21 pitches to Brandon Belt. He threw 49 pitches in that first. It was the first inning. Brandon Belt was the second hitter in the game. So he threw 49 pitches in the first inning.
How horrible is that?
Oh my gosh! He lasted I think it was 2+, something like that, and he threw 77 pitches or something like so.
But he won. He won the at bat. But
right, he did. He got him to fly. That's the most important thing.
Right. But in all honesty, Brandon Belt won that at bat.
Yeah.
You got to throw you 21 pitches. It doesn't matter what you do. You just knock that pitcher out early.
Yep, and that's exactly what he did. And he was on a short leash anyway because he was just called up that day to cover, just to be an arm to cover. So anyway, that was a really fun thing. That was really exciting, and that was I think the day after or 2 days after Sean Manaea for the Oakland A's pitched the first no-hitter of the season.
Yep.
Against the hottest, best hitting team in baseball, the Red Sox.
Bartolo Colon was in the middle of a no-hitter, and I text Adam, dude, Colon, 7th inning. It's time, dude. Check it out. I don't pay attention to any of these notifications until it gets to the 9th inning.
And I didn't. I got in the 5th or 6th inning, they start sending you notifications for these no hitters.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
perfect
whatever, because
no hitters.
Almost every single one ends in the 7th or 8th inning, and it hardly ever comes to fruition. But
like Bartolo Colon and actually lose the game.
Right. Yeah, and that happens. That does happen.
Yeah.
A guy will go like really, really. He'll be going really strong for
unhittable.
A while. Right, and then as soon as they hit him, he'll kind of fall apart.
Right.
And so anyway, but that didn't happen for Sean Manaea. He was, the A's were looking pretty good early on, and but the Red Sox were looking really great.
Oh, they're the best team in baseball.
He kept right.
So that makes it that much more impressive.
Definitely.
100%. You know what else is a lot of fun?
What's that?
This is a smooth transition. The Pelicans.
Oh my gosh!
Can you believe that? Okay, so I can believe that the Pelicans won that. Now we talked about how Boogie was out, and neither of us thought they would get past Portland. I don't think anybody in the world thought they'd get past Portland. However, they didn't just get past Portland. They're the only team in the playoffs. Well, no, I take that back. Golden State swept. Well, no, Golden State has to play one more game, and then they'll sweep.
No, the Spurs won yesterday.
Did they? See, there you go. I didn't pay attention. I was too busy watching the stupidest Cleveland Cavalier Indianapolis Pacers game. Indiana Pacers game. That's another story. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay, Pelicans. My man Anthony Davis. I'm going to tell you right now, this kid is so much fun to watch play basketball. I was trying to think about, okay, so when LeBron gets to his peak and starts his downturn, which, 2 to 3 years, I'd say, and not to say that his downturn's still going to be the top 5 player in the league.
Sure.
However, when he starts to lose that number 1 player, which I still think he's going to be for a while, I was thinking, KD's probably that next guy. I'm going to tell you right now, the only player besides LeBron that has an all-around game, back to the basket, can dribble up the court, can shoot the 3, can face up, down low, hit the 12-footer, is Anthony Davis. I don't know anybody else that does it as well as him. That kid is amazing.
You know what he's doing right now in these playoffs in 2018 is making his case for next year's MVP, because they're not going to give it to him this year, even though he deserves to be in the in the top 3 discussion probably.
Sure.
But he's making his case for next year, and it's going to matter, because it does matter, because guys get all the time, have great seasons the year before, and then that kind of boosts.
That's what happened with Russell Westbrook last year.
Right.
Everybody was like, "Oh, Russell! Oh my gosh, look at this triple-double machine!" And then all of a sudden, he became actually a triple-double machine, and won the MVP. He does the same thing basically this year, doesn't, and now he's third person on the list. But it's James Harden's turn, because last year James Harden was that great,
right,
and could have done it. So James Harden moves in and has another great season. So now I completely agree with you. So you see the end of this year with AD. Next year, he's right there. And I feel bad for LeBron James, because the most valuable player, there is no one more valuable to their team than LeBron James.
Yeah, I heard somebody on the radio today say, if LeBron James doesn't win the MVP, then we need to change the name of the award, right?
100%. But that's how it's the same deal when Michael was there. But I don't know. I mean, Mike had, I guess Michael had Scotty, and he had but if you look at his surrounding guys, did they do anything anywhere else?
Not much.
No.
Not much. I mean, Dennis Rodman,
and he came in the second half of it, but that beginning, I mean, nobody, Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, my man B.J. Armstrong, Bill Cartwright,
John
Horace
Paxson.
Grant had a decent career. We went to Orlando afterwards.
He did.
But what I'm saying is, Michael should have won the MVP every year, because he was the most valuable player to that team,
of course,
and then to any team. And then LeBron's the same way. But you get fatigue, man. It's the Michael fatigue. It's the LeBron fatigue. So AD next year.
Right.
I'm on my pedestal. If LeBron can't win it, I am taking my vote for MVP, which means 0, and I'm voting for AD.
So yeah, right. And he made his case. He had 47 in the clinching win the other day.
I know.
He had 47. Drew Holiday, who we talked about their guards playing so well and way outplayed Portland's guards, who are probably the second best guard duo in the league.
He manned up Lillard basically by himself.
Yeah. Drew Holiday and Rajon Rondo, the way they play, especially Holiday, man. He had 41 in that game. He and Anthony Davis combined for 88. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So in the beginning, when the playoffs started, if you would have asked me who the weakest team in the West was, I would have said the New Orleans Pelicans. I thought they were the weakest team. They were the 6th seed, but I thought they were the weakest team.
Yeah.
They are the first team in all the playoffs to advance to the second round. Portland fell apart. They fell apart, but it
doesn't matter.
It didn't.
It doesn't matter. You're in the NBA. You're playing. You're all professionals. They are the only ones that did it.
The Pelicans did not advance because, partially, but not solely because Portland fell apart. They played that well, and they're going to be ready to play. Now they're gonna face Golden State next. I don't think they're going to beat Golden State, certainly, but man, I would have said, Golden State sweeps, the Pelicans, no problem. But I don't think that now.
I agree. I don't see it either. Who are they going to put on Anthony Davis? I don't even know who on that team could guard him.
Yeah.
Iguodala would be the only person I think that they would try to put on him, because he's their number one defender, and they try to make him defend 4 or 5 spots, but
they'll probably put Draymond Green on him, and he'll be able to give him a little bit of problems, but he'll.
It's an easy jump shot every time. He could put him in the paint, and it's an easy 10-foot jumper because Draymond cannot contest a shot for him. You just can't do it. Iguodala is much longer, I feel. I don't know. Either way, it's a task.
Yeah.
It's a task.
Yeah, and Holiday and Rondo are gonna put some pressure on Klay Thompson and Steph Curry if he comes back, and it's gonna be. I mean, those two. I take Steph and Klay over those two any day.
But you would have done that in this past series too,
right? But the way those guys are playing right now, it's a lot closer to being an even match than it looked like at the beginning of these playoffs.
I agree. All right. So, is there any of these other playoffs that have striked you in any way?
Well, you have three Eastern Conference series at 2-2 now because all three teams that won on Sunday, brought their series to 2-2.
The Bucks blew a 20-point lead and yet somehow still won.
They did.
Why? And this tells you how bad the Celtics are. They have, was it Marcus or one of the Morris brothers taking the last second shot to try to tie that game?
Yeah.
I mean, just shows you what happened to this Celtics team, but it also shows you the fact that they were still able to come through in something like that. When they get those guys back next year, dude, it'd be impressive to see what Kyrie and Gordon Hayward could do with this team.
Yeah, and I don't think they're. I mean, it's 2-2, and the Bucks almost lost the Bucks almost lost that game that they had in control for a while, and they had to get a tip in from Inspector Gadget at the end of the game to win, and so that series is 2-2 now. I still think the Celtics can win that series though and advance to the second round without their two best players.
Yeah.
Wizards Raptors. That was 2-0 Raptors, and it looked pretty bleak for the Wizards, but they went to Washington and took care of home court. So that's 2-2 now.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the Wizards are playing better now because John Wall is John Wall. That's fine. First couple games, their supporting cast, including Bradley Beal, did not play well. The last two games they did. They finally started playing the way you kind of expect them to play. And so I think they're right there now. I think that's an even series again. And that's going to be really exciting. I can see that going 7 games. I can see Bucks Celtics going 7 games. And then the last one, Philly and Miami. Philly's up 3-1, and they're probably gonna end that series either in the next game or the following game.
Yeah.
But the last Eastern Conference series is Cavs Pacers, and that one's 2-2 after that game.
All right. So
Sunday.
let's get into this Cavs Pacers deal.
Right.
All right. So I am a Xavier fan. I love the Xavier Musketeers.
Right.
And I'm only saying that because Lance Stevenson is a former UC Bearcat, even if it was just for 1 year.
Right.
I can't stand that guy.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that guy. I didn't like him his first stint. The first stint with Indiana with the blowing in LeBron's ear, whatever. That was a little funny. And then it got caught. I mean, it got caught on tape. He was probably messing around. It got caught on tape, blew up, and he has formed and molded himself into the dumbest idiot. He's almost as dumb as I feel like he's almost as dumb as JaVale McGee.
I think he's worse. I think
McGee's just an idiot. I think this guy's doing it on purpose, and he looks even stupider.
Yeah.
No offense to McGee. I mean, he's a good basketball player, but he's.
And Lance Stevenson's a good basketball player. He's just not a smart basketball player.
If he got his head on straight, he'd be great. He would be a really good player.
And he was for a while. His first stint in Indianapolis, he was the second best player behind Paul George. I mean, for a while, he had some really good games for them, even in the playoffs too. And he's the one guy who can get under LeBron's skin a little bit.
They say that.
He gets under his skin. That doesn't mean he stops him, or that doesn't mean he slows him down,
or that it affects LeBron in any way.
But LeBron does think about him.
Sure he does. I'm sure he does. Here's the deal, though. This guy. Okay, so go through this. So there's a jump ball on LeBron James in the third quarter, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Which jump balls in the NBA normally are ridiculous. It's a foul every single time. Not every time. If somebody jumps up and blocks a shot and they come down and they're both still holding the ball, that's a jump ball, sure. Or if there's a ball on the ground and somehow neither people are rolling on each other and they both have the ball, okay, that's a jump ball. That never happens. When the ball's on the ground, there's people diving on top of each other, or you get a time like this idiot Lance Stevenson does at the end of the Cavs game. They were looking. They had to go back and check it to see if there was a flagrant foul on the Cavs. They wanted to call a technical foul on the Cavs. He reached around the guy, grabbed him by the head, and pulled him to the – it looked like WWF, and they were trying to get on the Cavs guy. I can't stand him. I hate him. I can't stand him. And then he looks like he didn't do anything. Like, what? You called foul on me?
Yeah.
What did I do?
Yeah, well, first of all, that's everybody in the league now that complains about when they obviously foul somebody. And I don't want to get off on that tangent yet. But yes, so Lance Stevenson he's far too worried about the mind game and the theatrics, and if he makes a shot, with 7 minutes left in the second quarter, he's going to run down the floor and flex and make faces.
And his threes all over the place. Yeah. He plays his 3 guitar, and he shoots his 3-ball arrows, and you ain't done nothing. You're down by 10. You're in the middle of the second quarter. Come on.
Yeah, and he wants to do all the grabbing and touching LeBron and messing with him and talking, and he just gets way too into that stuff. And there are plenty of guys that do that, and usually those are the guys that around the league people kind of dislike because they're just there to do that. And some of those guys end up you kind of think of some of those guys as being a little dirty and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think Lance is dirty, but
I wouldn't call him dirty. No. I would call him annoying.
He's annoying.
Stupid.
And like you said, if he just had his head on straight, and if he just thought about basketball, his talent is he's so athletic, and he's fast, and he's strong, and he's got
shoot.
Yeah, some, and he's a one-man fast break if he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just so worried about looking good. The game at the end of the regular season, where he comes down and makes an incredible block on a guy, blocks it off the backboard when a guy was way ahead of him, hustled after him, made a blocked the ball off the backboard, and then stood there and flexed while the ball bounced to another guy coming behind him that caught the ball and dunked it right behind Lance, who had his back to the guy because he was looking into the crowd or into the camera flexing after his block. That's a microcosm. That is Lance Stevenson. If there's a definition of Lance Stevenson, it's that.
I didn't see that, but I would love to see that camera angle, because the only reason he's flexing is because he saw a camera in front of him.
Yeah.
So he's doing, and to see the guy behind him dunking would be phenomenal, because I can't stand the guy. I think he's an idiot. I think the NBA needs to do something about their jump ball rule. I don't know how you're going to do it. I think they need to figure out a way to. Okay, I understand that you're going to get away with traveling, that extra step, the Euro step, and there's a lot of extra steps when guys are making a drive to the basket. I understand that. But when a guy catches the ball and takes 3 steps and then starts dribbling, that annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah.
When a guy catches the ball on a side, and LeBron does it all the time, he's pivoting with his one foot with ball in one hand outside, and then you see him literally pick that pivot foot up, and he's still moving. That's a travel. What?
Yeah.
Don't do that. You're not teaching kids. Kids are watching that and they think they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting too close to and one. I don't want to be the guy that complains about the NBA and the travel rule, because that's a guy that I usually can't stand. But
I want to be that guy. I'll be that guy.
Right.
I can't stand it.
It's stupid. It is.
There's traveling almost every single possession, every single one. And it's, a lot of it is the stars too, because their usage rate is so high, they're going to have the ball in their hands a lot. And they, LeBron is really bad, or Westbrook, your favorite player, whoever your favorite player is, he travels plenty. Trust me.
And the thing that gets me is one step below that is college basketball, and they are on top of the travel. I think that they're more on top. Well, maybe it just seems that way because of that. But you see a guy all the time in college catch a ball in a corner, sit there for a second, moving his pivot foot, waiting, and then go to make a move to go to the basket. Well, when he makes that move, he lifts his pivot foot up before he dribbles, and they call that as a travel. Because it is a travel. You can't do that.
Right.
Never gets called in the NBA. And I don't mind the extra step on a layup or something stupid like that. Whatever. they've already allowed this Euro step, so you can take 5 steps before you lay the ball in and jump around and play hopscotch. So I don't care about that. But when you literally are just standing there and walking, that's what it's called. It's a walk. It's a I can't stand it.
Yeah, it's gotten way out of hand. It's several different cases, like we've been saying, on the catch, when you start your dribble, when an inbound after a made basket, a guy catches it, turns around with both feet, and then takes 2 steps and starts dribbling down the floor.
Go one step worse than that, and you got Russell Westbrook last year, catches the ball on an inbound and took 7 steps before the refs blew the whistle. 7 steps, they counted them. 1, 2, and then the refs blew the whistle. Steph Curry's jumping up and down like a crazy person.
Yeah, he was cradling the ball. He was like, he didn't have his hand on top of it, on the side of it. He's like holding the ball,
holding it against
walking
his chest
down the floor like he's in practice, moving on to the next drill or something.
Yeah.
That was an obvious one, and I think the referees were just caught off guard because he was the only one in the backcourt. But yeah, it's that kind of thing though that's happening a lot more, and it's getting closer and closer to that kind of stuff where guys, you see it on Shaqtin' a Fool and different shows like that that show and will count the steps. There are cases where guys took 7, 8, 9 steps because they're switching their pivot feet and moving around when they're standing there with the ball, and the referees are not picking that up. And okay, if you move your pivot foot just a little bit, you slide it just a little bit, trying to reach to make a pass or something like that, okay, right. But it's not. It's really blatant.
It's lifting it up and moving it, and then pivoting some more, and then moving it another foot in the other direction.
Yeah. There's so many videos you can find on the internet of these kinds of cases. LeBron's done it a few times,
multiple times. I see him do it almost every game.
Yeah.
And I love LeBron James. You know how much I love LeBron James. I hate that.
Yeah.
Like I said, the extra step going to the basket, whatever. But when you are blatantly just standing there with the ball, moving your feet, that is the most annoying thing in the world.
That's traveling is one of those things that I feel like every year they say that it's a point of emphasis. We're gonna talk. We're gonna look for it. We're gonna call it, and most of those kinds of things are called for the first week or 2 or maybe month or something, and then they go by the wayside. It's just then everybody kind of just gets into the groove, players and referees and everybody, but yeah, and quickly back to the jump ball thing. That's maybe my biggest pet peeve, in officiating, and that one's not just the NBA. That's every single level of basketball that I've seen.
If I'm on the ground with the ball, and you come over top of me, and you're laying on my back, and you put your hand on the ball, that's not a jump ball.
Yes, and it's right, correct.
That's a foul.
It's a foul, and that's the thing is a jump ball. To so many referees now is if I'm touching the ball with a finger.
Yeah.
If I have both my arms, like you said, I jump on top of you because I'm hustling after the ball, even though you're already on it. I jump on top of you, wrap both of my arms around your entire body, and touch the ball with one hand. Just touch it, that's the thing. A jump ball is supposed to be when 2 guys have possession.
That's the key word. Possession.
Yeah. And so just touching the ball is not possession. That's not possession. That should not be a jump ball. It's called all the time. The foul is missed all the time on loose balls. I'm not ever going to say 50-50 ball, by the way. I hate that term so much, but it's like no one says loose ball anymore. I will always say loose ball for the rest of my life.
I love loose ball.
Anyway, but those situations, a foul so much of the time, almost never called, and then a really quick jump ball that's nowhere close to a jump ball.
The quick jump ball gets on my nerves more than anything, too, because you see that when a game starts getting, I don't want to say out of hand, but when a game starts getting a little tense, you'll see referees all of a sudden call a jump ball like immediately, and I can, whatever, I don't understand it. I do understand that they're trying to get the game under control. They want to get these big men off of each other as fast as possible, but that's part of the game. It's part of the game. If I got the ball and I'm just moving, or I get a rebound and I bring it down and a guy just puts his hand on it from around me and he doesn't knock it out of my hand, but he doesn't have the ball, that's not a jump ball.
Right. And that brings to mind. So we talked about 2 major things in officiating there are two things that are really grinding my gears that players are doing, and it's bothering me so much, and I want there to be something that the league can do to manage this. One is involving the jump ball. After the whistle, neither guy will let it go.
Nobody lets go.
Nobody will let it go because I'm assuming it's a macho thing.
Yeah.
I'm tougher. I'm stronger. I'm coming away. It's a win for me. If I get, even though it's not a win because it's already been called a jump
It's
ball.
over. It's
so the
over.
win
You're
is the
gonna-
possession arrow.
Yeah.
Whoever gets the possession arrow, but
Or jumping up for the ball.
and that causes all the skirmishes. It causes all the little stupid pushing and shoving that never ends up really into anything. But it's just that's so unnecessary, and it's just an ego macho thing, I think, and it's the dumbest thing, and it's the root of it. I mean, it's the cause of so many of the problems when guys start pushing and shoving and talking and getting in each other's faces.
All right, so then when that happens, it's just a double technical immediately. If you guys don't let go of the ball, you get one warning. Drop the ball. Jump ball, jump ball, jump ball. Drop the ball. Nobody drops it. Tee them both up. I think if you start doing that, you're going to get a lot more technicals, but there you go. That's the point of it.
That's the thing, yes. And that's a good thought. And the only thing, because with almost any rule change or whatever, you have some caveats where, and one I think for that is sometimes a guy will have his arm in and his arm is trapped. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it might look, but then you can go to the
go review it. They review
everything.
everything.
Right.
There's more review time than there is basketball playing.
Yeah, I agree.
So go look at it. You already are anyway.
Right. So you should be able to tell from there most of the time whether a guy is still fighting for fighting for the ball after the whistle, or whether his arm is stuck in there.
Right. Or if the other guy is holding his arm down.
Right.
Or sometimes the guys try to make it seem like their arms are tangled
and
in.
They're
the ones hooking.
Right, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, something like that where you just hand out technicals. Okay, so it's the player's job to adjust to that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So something like that to get that cleaned up.
Number two
would be
what's number two? Because I think I know what number two is, and I got my answer for it.
Number two is complaining to the officials. I am so sick of seeing guys. I'm guilty of it when I play, but I'm so tired. I've gotten better about not complaining to the officials because I'm so sick of seeing NBA players complain to the officials, and it has a trickle down effect because NBA players do it, college players do it, high school players do it. Little kids who are playing basketball in elementary school, whether it's AAU or a really bad school team, like the St. Martin Wildcats, there are kids that play for them, and I'm allowed to say that because I was part of some of the worst grade school basketball in the history of basketball. But I mean, kids are doing that, are throwing their hands up and making faces, and every time a foul is called, every time a travel's called on them,
every time LeBron goes to the or not just, I shouldn't say LeBron, every time a guy goes to the basket, he thinks he's fouled and he complains. So here's the deal, and I told you this the other day. I don't remember a lot of that going on back in the day. I don't remember ever seeing a guy like Magic Johnson or Larry Bird ever doing. Maybe give an eye every now and then. Who I do think did it a lot was Isaiah Thomas. I did see Isaiah Thomas. He always seemed like he was talking to a ref. But I really truly believe people watch Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, I think, started this revolution of complaining to referees. You see, Michael, they talk about it. Referees will talk about it. He would be in a ref's ear all game long, and then eventually he starts getting his calls, or not getting calls, but I think he started it. Everybody saw him do it. They think they can start doing it because he's the greatest player to ever play the game. They want to be him. So then you got your Kobe's and your LeBrons and Carmelos, and then it becomes a thing where Draymond Green complains every single time. You're a role player on a good team. If you played on another team, you'd probably be Marquise Morris or something like that. But what I'm saying is it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody does it now. And I truly believe it's a trickle down from Michael.
and that, so you told me that off the air the other day, and it blew me away. I'll be honest, it blew me away. I never thought about Michael that way. I definitely have a bias for Michael Jordan. He was the guy growing up.
Sure.
You know, I never. Of course, he talked to the officials, and guys that in that era did too. I feel like it really started right after Michael left, like the early 2000s.
That's what I'm saying.
But you're saying it started with Michael because they saw him do it.
The revolution was created from this one thing, and so all this trickle down, kids watching, and they get older and start playing. That's the group that started this where they can do whatever they want and say anything they want to anybody. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong.
That's fair, and we probably watched Michael Jordan differently growing up, sure,
I was a Knicks
you
fan.
Were a Knicks fan, right, and they had a huge rivalry
Yes.
too. So, and I hated the Knicks. The team you loved, I hated the Knicks, and I loved Michael Jordan. Anybody who had a problem with Michael, I hate the Detroit Pistons bad boys because they were a huge rival for Jordan early in his career.
Now, I loved Michael Jordan, and I loved the Bulls. Don't get me wrong, but I more hated the Pacers than I did as a Knicks fan than I did the Bulls with the Reggie Miller and the Spike Lee and all that shit.
And I loved the Pacers because that was like my second favorite team because they had
Adam
a big
sits in my basement right now talking with an Indiana Pacers sweatshirt on.
Right. Yeah. I have a Cavs sweatshirt too, so it's not like I'm rooting for one or the other. I'm rooting for a 7-game series. Anyway, but yeah, so for me, the complaining to the referees thing, I didn't remember Michael Jordan complaining more than anybody else, but to me it seemed like it started with, the early 2000s, the Kobe, Stephon Marbury, Allen Iverson, Kevin Garnett, those guys that really kind of took over the league for a little while right after Jordan left.
Yeah.
And that's when it seemed to me like there was a lot more.
Every one of those guys you name, I guarantee, would say that Michael Jordan was their idol and who they mocked their game after.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I mean, especially Kobe, but
obviously,
I would bet though that if you asked all of them where they got their communication with officials, where they got that from, I would bet not one of them would say Michael Jordan.
I'm going to tell you to go back, watch some YouTube video of Michael Jordan, and I bet you see him complaining all the time.
I have like 15 DVDs of full games of Michael Jordan, so I'll go back and watch. I
could be completely wrong. That's just
if I'm looking for it, I'll bet I'll see it. But I still don't feel like he complained more than anybody else. He got more calls than anybody else.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he did it more or as much even as these guys do now. I'm just saying that he was the one focal point for a 7-year period, where he was the man. There was nobody else but Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And if he, you see him every once in a while walking over, the refs would actually talk with him because he was that good. So they would not just turn their back to him. They would actually speak to him. Mm-hmm. Everybody starts seeing that. Now they want to talk to the refs. And then that next generation comes in and they all think that that's how basketball's played because that's how they saw. I could be completely wrong.
I mean, every team has captains, and the captains are supposed to be allowed to talk to the officials.
I never understood what that deal was all about. What you're the captain. What does that mean? What is that? I get nothing out of that except a C on my jersey.
You're the leader. I mean, you're a leader of the team. So you should have. It's usually the best players or a couple of the best players on your team, but it should be because that's the case where you can be a conduit to for your team to the officials. You should have your best communicator, maybe, or some of your best communicators. If you have 3 really good players on your team, take the 2 best communicators maybe and put them in those positions because because they will know how better to. Now everybody's adrenaline is going crazy during games and people get emotional. That's just the nature of the sport. But guys that can, and that's the thing. Like if you listen to some of those like Wired, where guys are mic'd up, sometimes you hear really good conversations where it seems like a player and a referee might disagree on something, but
they have a good conversation.
But they have a good conversation about it, and they're understanding, and we've seen that a few times in these playoffs too with guys. So I would love to see, and they around the All-Star break, I think they had a meeting between the Players Association and the officials about communication. I heard a really great podcast with Monty McCutcheon, a longtime former referee who's still in the league office representing the officials, and he talked so much about the relationship between players and the referees and the communication and how how it breaks down sometimes and who was really good at it and how understanding each other's jobs a little bit better and making an effort to have some empathy for an official if you're a player and a player if you're an official and really like looking into the relationship and the communication in the relationship between a player and official. That stuff's really, really interesting to me, and I think they could do a much better job of maybe like at the rookie combine and really every year, maybe as part of training camp or something, having somebody come in and talk to guys about that and about communication and understanding the job of an official. And I'm pretty sure they actually do that for the officials.
Sure.
But I think they could do a better job of that, and I think that would help. A little bit. And like I said, in the middle of a game, everybody's emotions are so high. It's hard to, no matter how well you control your emotions and stuff, you have that adrenaline pumping,
right?
And you're going to be a little more emotional. But if you have some sort of training on how to handle that and have a better understanding of what the officials have to go through to do a great job and how good they really actually are at their jobs, even though one team is really upset and thinks that the referee was wrong every single play, whether he makes a call or doesn't or whatever that call was. I think they could fix that a little bit at least and make the complaining to the officials every single play.
It would have to start with the superstars, and those are the ones that do it the most. It would have to start with a LeBron James saying, all right, look, we do this way too much. I go back and I watch the film, and, yeah, I wasn't fouled. Or yes, I did get him. So it's to me, if this is going to happen like this, it can't just be the league saying, okay, referees talk at the rookie symposium or players talk to the referee, the players union talk to the referee. It's got to be the main guy saying, all right, this has gotten out of hand. We need to stop. I don't know how that happens. I don't think you can do it.
Well, I agree, and I think it could, because I think we have right now some of the most, some of the best players in the league are really smart guys, and they can. LeBron James, I think, could definitely handle that. I think
but he does it more than anybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think if you sat him down and had like a training with him to help him understand and make him understand. And that's the thing too. He's a leader. He knows the NBA is in his hands right now.
Right.
And I think he's smart enough and he's a good enough communicator to say, to understand that and say, you know what, I can do a better job. Because I think he also.
Well, then somebody needs to sit him down and get that going in his head, because right now that's not happening.
Right. Yeah.
I think right now we're as far away from that as you can get.
Yeah.
Because it is at its worst right now.
Yeah, probably. It's really bad. But, I do think, I think some of those ideas, I think they could really look into that stuff.
Starts with Chris, it starts with the Cabana crew, man. It starts with that Chris Paul banana boat, whatever it is. The Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. It starts with that group of guys, because even though some of them are on their way down, everybody else still looks up to them and respects them. So I think in the NBA right now, everything starts with that group. If those guys decide they want to do something, the whole NBA does it. and that's if you're going to get something done like this, that's the only way it's going to happen.
I agree.
All right, man. What do you think, buddy?
I'm good.
I'm good. I think it's been. I appreciate you coming in today. I appreciate everybody listening. All 3 to 30 or however many people listen, doesn't matter. We appreciate it. Hit us up. Let us know if there's anything you think we could do differently or should talk about or something like that. Let us know on the Facebook. Search the Nosebleeds, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, the whole deal.
That's it.
There you go, man. We really appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah.
You free next week?
Yeah.
I'm free next week. Let's do it.
All right.